My name is Jaime, and this is my colleague Sam, and we're from FullStory. So, if you're not familiar with FullStory, FullStory is a digital analytics platform that serves as a source of truth for all of your customers' product interactions. So, FullStory helps you make your products better for your end users, and it does that by giving you visibility into their experiences. So, much in the same way that you wouldn't try to build a complicated distributed system or do DevOps without good metrics like Grafana or Prometheus, it'll be pretty difficult to deliver a good customer experience without a tool like FullStory. So search is one of the core value adds that FullStory brings to the table. And we use Solr very heavily in our search infrastructure. We also do data science and machine learning at FullStory. So today's talk will cover how behavioral search and session replay have become kind of integral components of our data science and machine learning workflows, and hopefully kind of inspire you guys to apply this in your own work. So some brief introductions. My name is Jaime Yap. I'm a director of engineering at FullStory. I work mostly on search experience and search infrastructure. Before FullStory, I spent some time at Google working on Chrome and various collaborative applications and distributed systems.
And I'm Sam Franklin. I'm the Director of Data Science Analytics at FullStory. And also, like Jaime, I'm an ex-Googler, but I was on the analytics side.
Cool. So the title of the talk is kind of a mouthful. And in fact, I can barely say it, so I won't even try right now. So it probably makes sense to break things down just a little bit. So you're probably familiar with what data science and machine learning are. And we're going to talk about behavioral search and session replay in just a moment. Yes, the previous speaker left his shoes. Thank you, Eric. All right, no problem. It's all good. But Bionic, why is Bionic the first word of the title? Like, what does it mean? Well, Bionic here means tools and processes that are very high leverage. So things that let you do more in less time, have a broader reach and broader impact without broader effort. It also means tools that feel natural and they fit into your desired workflows. If it's not easy to use, you're not going to use it. So it should feel like a natural extension of what you want to do anyways. And these all come together to enable what we call human quality at machine scale. So just because something is high leverage or gives you kind of a broad impact doesn't mean you need to lose kind of the subtle intuitions or nuances or insights that you'd otherwise have if you were doing something at a smaller human scale. So at a very high level, what do we want from a Bionic data science and machine learning workflow? Well, we want something that will help improve your model quality, speed up your time to completion, and of course, increase confidence in your results. Now, this is all kind of high level and sounds wishy-washy, so let's get a little bit more concrete. All right, how many of you are familiar with what we mean by behavioral search? Okay, no worries. We mean the ability to search and segment by user behaviors and actions, not just simple properties or simple filters. So imagine someone clicks on the add to cart button, they encounter an error on your site, maybe they see a modal dialog, they dismiss it, and then they either get to a confirmation page or they wash out and get to a cancellation page. So basically, if you can think of it, then you can search for it. And in doing that, it's pretty important that your tools be fast and responsive. So being able to iterate quickly allows you to explore your data more naturally. And to do that requires a little bit of clever engineering. So as you explore your data and then your ideas become more and more concrete, you'll want to test and validate your hypotheses. So it's important that your tools give you different perspectives and views on the data that you're looking at. Sometimes you don't even know what questions you need to be asking. So tools that kind of spur this serendipitous discovery are pretty important. And as you can see, as you build your searches, you can see different charts and graphs and perspectives on that data set. And all these things kind of conspire to save you time up front. So instead of spending 6 months on a dead end, you spend less time and you get it right, hopefully the first time. But how does this work at scale? So FullStory has some very large customers. They can do tens, hundreds of millions of sessions a month. Each of that translates to tens of billions of Solr documents coming in each month, and we have lots of customers. And we have their historical data as well to consider. So we'll take a little bit of a moment to talk about some of the things we've done to tackle this problem. So applications that work with data, whether you're an information retrieval system or a video game, there's often this tension between the highest fidelity raw data that has more detail and a sort of use case optimized version that you've processed a bit. So some of the trade-offs that happen when you do this kind of use case optimization is that you make it faster for those specific use cases, but then you lose flexibility as a result. And if you want to support some other use case, you often have to apply some other transformation. So we kind of want to do what we need to make things fast, but retain as much of the cow as possible, especially with a tool like FullStory where you don't necessarily anticipate all of the kinds of searches that will be run. Or if we want to add a new kind of data visualization, it's nice to have that work retroactively without having to reprocess everything that just happened. Although in the previous talk that Eric gave, that could help with that a bit. So I mentioned wanting to keep as much of the detail, keep as much on the cow side and less on the sphere side as possible. Here are a few kind of high-level bullets for how we did it at FullStory. So being very intentional about we tend to use more structured indices and less so kind of free-form text search. And we don't use much of Solr's scoring mechanisms. So we tend to decompose categories of visualizations that we want to produce into very thoughtful structured indexes. We spent a lot of time optimizing our queries. So we measured a ton. We observed patterns in production. We found pathological cases. Having a nested sort inside of a high cardinality facet, don't do that. And other things. We also have some intermediary DSLs that we applied where we can do some kind of query optimization to remove unnecessary joins while retaining the same semantics for the application query. We also built a custom plugin. So how many of you attended the dynamic plugin loading talk yesterday? Cool. So we're looking forward to that landing because that would help us with operations quite a bit. But we maintain some internal plugins and a custom query parser that optimize for some of our use cases and make some things a bit more efficient internally. Of course, everyone does sharding for parallelism, and we throw lots of hardware at the problem. But when you do this, you expose yourself to kind of long tail latencies. If one machine is misbehaving and you're distributing your queries across the cluster, then that machine is going to make that query slow. So to rein some of that in, we built some custom cluster monitoring and orchestration infrastructure to make sure that our shards are balanced, to make sure that misbehaving GCing nodes get shot very quickly and brought back up, and other things. And we're continuing to invest both in Solr Cloud and our hopefully shrinking set of internal tools for doing this. So this could probably be its own talk at some point. So just to keep this very high level, we'll kind of go on. I'm happy to talk more about how we scaled search at FullStory at lunch after this. Okay, so session replay. Session replay is a technology that allows you to see a reconstruction of end user sessions as they experienced it. So you can actually see the thing that your data says happened versus just imagining it. And what this means is that you can confirm your results and increase confidence in your models. If your Jupyter notebook kind of spits out a confidence interval, it's nice to be able to then watch a session and see an example of what that category means in practice. So getting a little bit ahead of myself there. So all of these session replay links session replays are linkable. So you can actually put these in your data artifacts I mentioned Jupyter Notebooks, but they can also be sprinkled into your dashboards. So if you have a distribution or a top 10 list, being able to link to exemplar sessions makes it very, very concrete what that data is telling you. And finally, session replay removes ambiguity. It's the final say in what your users experienced. So I'm going to kind of give you a demo of a product that we just launched this week called Conversions that kind of ties all of this together. It's a data analysis tool that weaves together behavioral search and session replay. So what is Conversions? Well, very briefly, if you have a website or an app or an application, there are probably workflows that you care about. In an e-commerce situation, the traditional e-commerce funnel, right? You add something to your cart, the checkout flow. But if you're an airline, for example, your workflow might be searching multi-city search, or if you're a food company, it's ordering food and picking the right recipes and seeing recommendations. So whatever multi-step workflow you care about understanding, Conversions will tell you what signals in the user experience negatively affect the conversion. What signals are actually hurting your users and preventing them from succeeding. So with that, I will hopefully have Wi-Fi. Oops. All right, so here you see a traditional e-commerce funnel, and it's going to end with reaching a confirmation page. So with behavioral search, you can in real time kind of get feedback to make sure that you're actually looking for the thing that you think you're looking for. And once you've built your workflow, you can actually see a list of the top opportunities that our systems have determined are negatively impacting your conversion. So with this list, you want to learn more, you can drill in. So for example, there's an error dialog that somebody saw. You can click in and get more detail about what happened. The contrast is a little bit bad on the screen, but we actually show you where in the funnel it happened and how much we estimate that is affecting your conversion. And like I mentioned before, seeing is believing. So in addition to giving you kind of this data analysis, you can watch sessions of people that experienced the error and failed to convert, or people that did not experience the error and successfully converted. And again, I apologize for the low contrast. Seen on your monitor, it actually looks like a beautiful UI. Cool. So with rich behavioral data, you can deliver powerful data insights. But taking a step back, why are we doing this? Well, it's all about delivering a better user experience. It's delivering a better product to your end users. And when thinking about the possibilities and potential for doing this, if this is what we can do for you in the application, the space of things that you can do with this data to help your users is much, much larger. And in all fairness, it's probably infinite, but infinity is kind of hard to fit on a slide. So as data scientists and machine learning practitioners, you are closest to the wants and needs of your users. You have that context swapped in much better than we would. And even though we're going to continue to surface things in the application that make certain things really easy, really you all have the power to do much more. So with that in mind, we've built a full data export at FullStory to export all of the events that we've indexed in our search indexes for you to perform data science and machine learning projects on. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Sam, who's going to give you some examples.
Thanks, Jaime. So raise your hands if the quantity or the quality of data that you have access to impacts your ability to help your colleagues or to help your customers. Like anybody who's doing data science should be raising their hand right now, because quality and quantity of the material we have to work with is fundamental to what we can build. So that's why I want to start by talking about how you get copies of your company's high quality session data out of FullStory so that you can get your hands on it. As Jaime mentioned, we've got cool things that we do and a pipeline full of more ideas, but the space of what's possible is infinite, and so it's important that you be able to work your magic on your own data. We've built an open source tool that's called Hauser. And what this tool does is it will grab all of your granular session data and then deliver it to different storage utilities, including local storage, S3, Redshift, Google Cloud Storage buckets, or BigQuery. And when it delivers it to Redshift or BigQuery, it automatically applies a standardized schema that makes it easy for you to query the data with SQL. And that, in turn, should help you build data science applications a lot faster and also feed analytics dashboards. Internally at FullStory, we use Hauser to load data into BigQuery, and that's for our data science and analytics team to use. At FullStory, we have this sort of strange situation where we are running FullStory on FullStory in order to gather data about how people use FullStory, which particularly when I was new felt like a really bad case of incursion. But what it does is it provides useful information for us to figure out how to further develop our product. The question is then, with this information in hand, what do we do with it? So I want to walk across some practical use cases that we encounter on a regular basis. The first is user engagement analysis. Anyone who's trying to develop a digital experience really needs to be understanding the user's engagement in order to figure out what to do next in terms of development. So, for example, we'll ask questions like, is a user going to take a certain action within the next 30 days? Or how do individual user behaviors map to overall account behaviors? An important part of that analysis is the actual architectural components of the workflow. So I want to show those to you next. For us, the entire workflow takes place on Google's cloud platform. In order to answer the question, is a user going to take a certain action within the next 30 days, we can use an XGBoost model. And in developing a model, if that model meets our performance standards, then we'll save it as a BST file in Google Cloud Storage, which provides versioning for us. Then we use Google's AI platform prediction service to actually serve the model because it offers a number of helpful features such as auto-scaling and logging. In turn, all we have to do is register our newly trained model with the service by giving it the path to where the model file is stored in GCS. Once that's done, there's a Google Kubernetes Engine cron job that periodically runs a Go program that grabs fresh FullStory data and uses it to query the service API point that we just created. That API endpoint will then feed us the inference outputs from the model after it's been queried with the fresh data. And in this particular situation, we put that into BigQuery. We put those outputs into BigQuery. And BigQuery is connected to Looker, which is a visualization platform. For user engagement analyses, we have mostly internal customers. And so we use Looker as essentially our end user interface to provide them with dashboards. And specifically, our customers in this case are the huggers at FullStory. So what's a hugger? Well, at FullStory, it's not quite this. A hugger at FullStory is a role that combines customer support and customer success in one person. And so the insights we grab from the user engagement analyses, we then pipe into these Looker dashboards so that our huggers can quickly visualize and intuitively see where the opportunities and priorities should be for reaching out to help our individual customers. But this is just one of a number of things that we can do. And something I want to talk about next is actually really near and dear to my heart. It's been something I've been focusing on for the better part of a decade at Google and other places. And that's web analytics. So websites are a critically important channel for you to attract customers and for you to engage with the customers that you have. So their performance matters a lot. And over time, that's going to continue to increase. Last week, we published a blog post talking about how too many organizations are still relying on traditional web analytics tools that measure what is happening on your site, but they don't help you understand why it's happening. So based on some very painful personal experiences with clients, I know that that is just enough. When something's going wrong, when a page is not performing well, or perhaps an entire site is not performing well, you've got just enough information with the what measurements to cause a panic because you know exactly how badly things are failing, but you don't have enough information to truly understand what's happening with users and their behavior and figure out the cause of it to go ahead and start taking action to fix something. You need data that provides you the ability to not only look at macro trends from page to page and understand kind of what those journeys look like, but then when you see something of interest, particularly something that's problematic, you need that data set to also allow you to drill into the micro actions that are taking place within each page, so that when you're trying to fix a problem, you have all the data you need to make concrete, objective decisions. Without that information about the why things are happening, what I've seen is that these discussions about how to fix what is happening can devolve into contests among unsubstantiated theories that really increase the risk of making bad decisions. In order to get around that and quickly get at an answer and develop a remediation plan, you need to be able to explain not only like what is happening and why is happening, but we really feel at FullStory that empathy and qualitative information to match that quantitative information is important. So seeing the sessions, watching users struggle is an important part of our process in diagnosing opportunities for improvement. Not just looking at the data, as Jaime mentioned, but seeing the session and understanding, what has happened to a user. Those are the critical components to come to good conclusions. And I wanted to actually show you a practical example here. At FullStory, because we're growing fast, we're constantly looking for talented engineers, which means the performance of our engineering jobs page is very, very important to us. We want to continue to understand what user experiences are on that page and if there's anything that we can do to improve it. We can begin to answer those questions using 3 tools. Data export to get data out of FullStory, a Jupyter notebook because data scientists love Jupyter notebooks, and a pathing analysis package that we open sourced last week. The first thing that I like to do when I'm trying to understand what's happening within a workflow or a funnel on a website that I care about is to just start at the macro level and see page to page, like what's the flow? What's the sort of high-level social behavior that's happening on our site? And so here we have a Sankey diagram that we created with Plotly, and it shows the inflows to our engineering jobs page and then the outflows as well. One thing that hopefully you can see here, but if you can't, I'll tell you about it, is that after exiting our engineering jobs page, many users are going to these unknown and other destinations, which means they're leaving our site. This could totally be normal behavior, but it could also be a sign that there's something on the engineering jobs page that is motivating people to just leave rather than to go learn more about the specific jobs that we have available or about the benefits we offer. So I'm interested in asking that question. Like, what is happening here? Is there any point of friction? Is there something that's frustrating users and they just say, forget it, I'm not interested in this company? FullStory actually has frustration signals already pre-configured in our data. We have one called a rage click, which is the one that's the most fun, at least to look at in terms of an icon, but definitely not the most fun to see actually happening on your digital experience. We have dead clicks, and then we also have error clicks. So because it's kind of easy and they're pre-configured, I'm going to start my search there. I want to know, for example, are any rage clicks happening on the engineering jobs page? Because that would probably be like the last thing that I would want happening on that page. We can search for rage clicks by creating a segment that starts by saying, look, I want to look for anybody who has visited fullstory.com/jobs/engineering. So this is my page that I'm interested in. And then you add another event filter that says, look, if they rage clicked on anything, I want you to tell me about it. And then what's handy here is you can save this segment so that you can reuse it and you can share it. There's no reason to do the work twice. And other people might want to use this segment for their own analyses. And unfortunately, When I did this, I found that 17 people over 29 sessions have rage clicked on our engineering jobs page, which, like I said, is pretty much the opposite experience that we want people to have. So now I know what to start asking more questions about, and I'm gonna go ahead and switch to asking the why questions. What is rage click? And now that I know that that's happening, why are rage clicks happening? We think one of the best ways to start answering why questions is just to go in and start watching sessions, see what that user experience is actually like. There are two ways to get access to sessions. You can do it through the app, but also in that pathing analysis package that we open sourced on GitHub last week, there is a function there that will create a list of clickable links in the Jupyter Notebook that will also take you straight to a session. So let's go through what may be a semi-painful exercise for us to watch, which is, let's see a session where somebody was on our jobs page and they were rage clicking. So far, so good. It's a pretty big page, so they're scrolling through. Our jobs are actually here, farther down. So looks like they're interested in engineering kind of stuff. Software engineering frameworks, they just clicked on that. Now, this is a problem because those should go to another page that gives you the chance to apply. So those clicks are what we call dead clicks. It should have gone somewhere, it didn't go anywhere. That's a big thing that we need to fix. Thankfully, they're still with us. They want to check out the benefits. Now they're rage clicking. So rage clicking is like fast clicking on an element, and they are rage clicking the heck out of our benefits. One reason that I could imagine they're doing this is maybe they expect these to be clickable elements. They're not. They weren't designed that way. But perhaps this is a signal that a person wants to know a little bit more detail than just a few summary sentences. So a design consideration would be to make those clickable elements that lead to more detail. That's an improvement thing that we could do. The dead clicks, where we're not linking to the page where people can apply, is obviously something that we need to fix right away, because that's a fundamental break point when we're trying to attract engineers. What this shows, I think, we have so many talented people working on this website. And so one of the things that this shows is it's really hard to create great digital experiences that people love. It's just hard work. And you don't create it once and walk away from it. You have to continue to evolve it. That's hard work too. But the good news is with the right data and the right tools, that work can be easier. The best ones give you the ability to answer the why questions, to measure what is happening on your site. And then when you find things that you care about that are happening at a quantity that matters, you can dig in deeper and you can understand why they're happening. So with data export and our pathing analysis package, you can begin to do some of those things. You can answer some of those questions. But as Jaime mentioned, the data that we have available and that we can export to you to play with has so many opportunities. Like just a few that are kind of on my list include bot detection potentially. You could also do multi-touch attribution analysis if you're in the marketing space. You could be doing really cool, sophisticated content personalization models. These are just a few of the things. But a big motivation for us being here is we want to know what your ideas are. We do not have a monopoly on great ideas for doing things with this data. So we're really interested to hear, what other people could potentially do with this, because we all want better digital experiences. And with the right data and with data science, we believe that you can help create those. Thanks.
And Sam, a note on the rage click session. You weren't even searching for dead clicks. You were looking at rage clicks and had a serendipitous discovery that this other thing is potentially even worse. And that's kind of cool. That's something that you don't get unless you mix the qualitative and the quantitative.
Absolutely.
All right, so we have a couple minutes. Any questions? All right, well, thank you, guys. We'll be outside for lunch if you want to talk more about Solar and search and all that stuff. All right, thank you.